So it all started when I watched this review on my favorite hi-fi YouTube channel, New Record Day. And what happened is my boy Ron took the Ryan Speakers 610 monitors for a spin and he loved them. In fact, he loved them so much that his review comes across like almost like a paid advertisement. So I had this idea. I wanted to basically take the same speakers in for review and see if he and I landed on the same page. So with that said, I'm very excited to bring to you all my review of the Ryan Speakers 610 monitors. Let's talk about them. Alright guys, so here they are, the Ryan Speakers 610 monitors. So these speakers carry a price tag of roughly 2,000 US dollars, and they're both designed and made in the United States. And as you guys can tell, they're fairly straightforward two-way design. On the top we have a 1-inch soft dome tweeter that's made in Japan, and is surrounded by this felt pad that's basically designed to help minimize the tweeter's interaction with the baffle. Now down below here we have a 6.5-inch Nomex comb woofer that I hear Ryan Speakers not only design but actually make in the United States, which is pretty cool. And overall these are pretty big for a set of bookshelf speakers. They're nearly 17 inches in height, nearly 9 inches across, and they're 12 inches deep. And they also weigh 33 pounds. So they're pretty hefty, lots of internal bracing going on, and they also make their own binding post, which is pretty cool. So overall, yeah, these are very well-made speakers. Now, let's talk about how they sound. Alright, so this may be one of the easiest performance summaries that I'll ever have to film, and that's because the 610s are very straightforward speakers and they have two specific design goals. Number one is to use ultra-low distortion yet high power handling drivers in a design that number two is very balanced and very linear sounding. And by and large, that's what you get with the 610s. And in a way, this is a refreshing approach because let's face it, at $2,000, most manufacturers color the sound in a specific way, which forces you to basically listen to their interpretation of how music should sound. What the 610s do is they say, no, I'm going to show you what's on the recording and let the recording speak for itself. So it's a pretty refreshing way about making a speaker at this price point. Now, let's get into specifics. When it comes to the top end, you can expect the top end is going to be very airy, and of course it's going to have plenty of detail. Now this is where I tend to disagree with some of the other reviewers out there. A lot of people have described it as being smooth, and in my experience, unless you're running vinyl and tube gear, it's not going to be inherently smooth. It's going to be, I'd say, fairly balanced and fairly well extended. And if your recording's bright, it's going to be bright. If your recording's smooth, it's going to be smooth. The only problem I have with the tweeter is I do think the felt pad does actually help draw attention towards the tweeter at times, especially when you toe them in. In fact, if you toe these speakers in, it can get a little bit brittle, it can get a little bit harsh, but that's just my opinion. Otherwise, the mid-range and the bass is just stellar on this speaker. It's very open, it's very detailed, it's very quick, and it is reasonably dynamic. The bass, you know, it's kind of interesting. You think you'd have a lot of bass with a speaker that's this big, but the bottom line is it's more about quality than it is about quantity, which I find to be pretty refreshing. And the fact that these have such great power handling characteristics, you can really crank these and they're not going to complain. And that's really their selling point. These are speakers that you don't have to make excuses for. So it doesn't matter what kind of music you listen to. You can have a big room, you can have a medium room, or you can even have a small-sized room. They'll probably sound pretty good in that. They match a wide variety of electronics well. And yeah, they're just a lot of fun to listen to. You can listen at soft volumes, at loud volumes. So I understand why so many people love these speakers because it's hard to make them sound bad, which leads me to my final thoughts. Alright guys, so here's the deal. If you're somebody who's tired of colored sounding loudspeakers and you want to step into something that shows you the difference between all the records in your music collection, then the 610s are a fantastic option. Obviously at $2,000 they're not exactly inexpensive, but when you consider all the things that you get for the money, they're actually a pretty decent value. But now let's talk about the back half of the review, which is, well, do I agree with Ron or do I not agree with Ron? Alright, so the answer is both yes and no. So the good news is that Ron and I pretty much agree on the performance envelope of the 610s. Where we tend to part ways, however, is our enthusiasm for them. And I suppose I need to set up the context like this. You have to bear in mind that when Ron received the 610s for review, he hadn't really heard too many $2,000 loudspeakers at the time, let alone really good $2,000 loudspeakers. So when he heard these speakers do, well, what the 610s do, I mean, he was blown away. And the fact that his living situation and his gear perfectly accommodates the 610, I mean, it's completely easy for me to understand why he loves these speakers so much. And one of the things that you guys need to realize is, no, his enthusiasm is 100% genuine. But my enthusiasm is a lot more lukewarm, because even though I really like the 610s, you know, they're a pair of $2,000 speakers that don't suck, which is pretty much how it should be at this price point. Don't get me wrong though, I do think they're really good, and the takeaway thing from this review is that, hey, they're very linear for the money. They have really good power handling characteristics, and if you're somebody who likes this approach to sound, you're gonna love them for a very, very long time. Anyways, guys, that's just gonna be my take on the 610s. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.